our first conversation for today as we are joined by union representatives to discuss ongoing negotiations that are taking place. We're joined by Sharon Fraser, who is the president of the Association of Public Service Senior Managers. In the middle, we have Senator Elena Smith, who's the president of the Belize National Teachers Union. And on the end, we have Doreth Obermayer Cayetano, who's the president of the Public Service Union. Good morning and welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So, let me start off by saying we know that the union is usually very calculated in when they choose to make media appearances. And being joined by three presidents of three very important unions, it must be that there is something brewing. Do we start there with responding to cynicism?
Well, our appearance is about informing the members, the general membership, of where we are with the negotiation. And as to whether something is brewing or not, unfortunately, nothing is brewing. That is the problem. From a historical perspective, the CBA that we're trying to conclude started in 2008.
CBA as in collective bargaining agreement.
Collective bargaining agreement between public officers and teachers and GOB, right? Since we have the same employer in common. So that the very first meeting took place somewhere in September of 2008.
Wow.
Yes. Proposal, the wrong rules were set down. We got that covered, and it would have been not until, I guess, maybe December of that same year that, in fact, proposal was submitted. And it wasn't until the following year that counter proposals were given by government in relation to it. And it didn't. They came back with the fact that they couldn't deal with most of the proposal. It was 23 proposals. 24 proposals. And in fact, I can recall looking at I wasn't present at the start of it, but being the oldest, not by age necessarily. But
Senator watches you.
The one involved with the process the longest.
Yes. Right, in that sense. I remember when I looked at the proposals that was sent back, the counter proposal that was sent back by government, most of them was not supported, not agreed. The vast majority without any discussion taking place at that time. So the process continued. It might have been until, I know sometime in August 2009, we had asked, the union was asked to submit costing to those proposals that had financial implications. We did all of that. Even with that, that took another lengthy process, and a very scanty response was given thereafter, and we started the fight, the real fight. At some point, that is when they decided to involve ministers as part of the official negotiating team. So besides the CEO Public Service and other CEOs, ministers were now added.
Yes.
So
Which was
head
better.
of,
Which
should have been better.
And let's be clear, because that was also a response coming out of the union as well, that the CEOs constantly had to go back to the ministers.
Right.
So you had actually asked for
Right.
top level involvement.
Right. So the Prime Minister appointed Honorable Patrick Faber as the lead negotiator. There was Minister House, Godwin House, and there was a third minister. I think it must be Labour.
Okay.
Yes, Labour at that time. And I could recall at one meeting that I went, no, this is just at the point when I got involved, when we were told, no matter what money you found, because now in looking in the engagement, it's, as it relates to the money issue, and even as it relates to the salary adjustment, we were told outright, that was not accepted, we would not give you that. So it didn't matter if you found the money or not, because we had undertaken that we're going to go look for the money. As public officers, we would have, and it's out of that process that the cost saving and revenue enhancement committee came out of that whole process. This was the first time ever public officers decided that, you know what, we're going to get involved, we're going to go search, we're going to look at where the loopholes are, where the holes are, we're going to clog them up to enhance government revenue so we could find our own money for our salary adjustment. And there are times when, in fact, ministers talk about raise. It was never a raise. It's a salary adjustment, which still didn't meet the cost of living.
What's the difference between a raise and a salary adjustment?
The salary adjustment would take into account inflation, what you would have lost with the rising of gas prices, for example, and other things, the cost of living. In fact, we had come up with the fact that, okay, we were going to settle with 30% salary adjustment. During the whole negotiation, we said, okay, fine, it's going to be 10, 10, 10 over 3 years. And then it boiled down to, well, whatever it is, the percentage amounted to, with looking at the revenue made in 1 year over another year. And whatever percentage came out of that, the ceiling being 10%.
Yeah. And in fact, that issue has been settled. There have been partial agreements made so far in the negotiation.
To be honest with you, we have signed off on nothing as it relates to the salary adjustment. But government has honored that agreement, that gentleman agreement that we made, and have given us our 3 tranches of salary adjustment. Didn't come up to 10% each year, but we have received it.
Yeah.
So the fight is about money.
The fight is not about money.
Alone.
We've gotten the portion that would have required a huge amount of money out of the government coffers. We've gotten that already. So that is not the fight.
Yeah.
And passed that.
You know, and I think Kevin asked that because that is an assumption people will make.
Yes.
That if you are talking about an agreement, it has something to do with finances. And if we can recall, when the unions went to Belmopan, it was in 2012?
That was for the partial agreement?
It was for the partial agreement that led to your salary adjustment at that time. But
actually, no, it didn't. The partial agreement did not deal with the salary adjustment proposal number 1. It dealt with other things like allowances, and a number of other things. It is after that we had meeting, because the official side, made up of the government ministers and the CEOs, had said that they cannot accommodate us with a salary adjustment. So this matter was referred to the Prime Minister. So we had direct negotiation with the Prime Minister as it relates to the salary adjustment, and that was after the partial agreement.
What I'm trying to clarify is the timeline since 2008 till now. You're talking about 10 years on working out a collective bargaining agreement between the workers and the government, and because you represent different sectors.
Yes.
The proposals put forward in the collective bargaining agreement were, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, submitted by your own membership, your own consultation.
Yes.
Would it not be almost irrelevant at this point, the issues, or perhaps they're lesser priorities, maybe they're changing priorities from your members at this time, or are these proposals still in your mind and in your consultation the top issues affecting workers?
Still the top issues, housing, insurance, are still very much important to membership.
But not only that, proposal number 3 as well, amendment to our labor law. You know, that was deferred. That again is one that is important.
Yeah.
What amendment were you guys seeking?
There were certain aspects within the labor law that would have needed clarification as it relates to
time and a half.
Yes.
Over time. There's some issues that's how you measure it.
Yeah.
So we've gotten one interpretation from the then Solicitor General when he came to a meeting with us with the Prime Minister, and when he left,
There was
Another interpretation came from
exactly.
Mr. Gandhi, but you know about Mr. Gandhi. So.
And these are things that affect, as you said, workers in general. So it's not that it only affects us as public officers, but it affects workers in general, because as an employer, you interpret time and a half differently from the other employer.
Yes.
And so there are certain employees who get what they are supposed to get, where there are others who are cheated because of the interpretation of what time and a half and double time mean.
Yeah.
You guys spoke about housing, which is a financial thing. It might not be directly financial, but it has a financial component. You guys talk about time and a half, which again has a financial component. Of all the things I've been hearing so far, a lot of them seems not necessarily to deal with directly a salary direct benefit, but it has some financial,
implications,
some
right,
cost implication.
right.
So it seems that we're going right back again to money.
Well, we have to look at the fact that a lot of these things that we do get as part of our compensation package from government requires financial obligation for us to get them.
But something like, for instance, Proposal 4 deals with performance appraisal.
Yes.
That is how we're performing as public officers, how we're serving the public. And we're saying, let us address it. People talk about, oh, you go in this government department and nobody look upon you and nobody do this and the service is poor. Well, we wanted to address that as well.
Yeah.
So it is not only about
The
money.
finances.
Michael.
Exactly.
Let me take the opportunity, because I really want to understand what proposals are outstanding at this point in time. You spoke of the amendments to the labor law,
Yes.
the appraisals. The OSH bill was also something that the unions were very much advocating for.
That was one that, in fact, we decided that we're going to leave to the umbrella organization, N.T.U. CBA. So while it has been on as part of our negotiation, as part of our discussion, we basically thought, I came to a conclusion that, you know what, let us leave it to N.T.U. CBA. It is on the agenda list for N.T.U. CBA. There are times when, in fact, we've gone out and said, you know what, maybe we need to do something. But for the most part, we wanted to leave that to the umbrella organization to deal with that particular issue.
So let's talk about the other proposals at this point.
Okay, so we had proposal number 5 speaks to the revision of the tax structure, right? So, and this is, there was this glaring example that was given to me as it relates to me as a public officer, and if in fact I was performing as an attorney, in terms of what is the tax implication. As a public officer, legal officer, I pay 25%. As an attorney, if I was working as an attorney, I would have been paying
6%.
6. No,
6%.
6%.
There's GST, there's...
Kevin.
No, I'm not, no, we all pay, it's 6%.
Yes.
And the threshold for attorneys
It's
is,
75,000.
no, it's 80,000.
80,000.
80,000. For me, I'm paying 25% at what threshold?
25,
25
600. Yeah.
something.
25, 600.
So, man, that's glaring. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, oh, well, maybe I should leave government and go private, because I have to make at least 80,000 before I am charged any personal income tax.
Let me go back.
As an example.
That's one
So we're
example,
looking at, I don't want to ruffle the council's feather.
But let me go back, because I'm really looking for areas other than something that has a financial component. We spoke about appraisals. If I'm right with appraisals, appraisals are done each year, and it indicates or contributes to whether or not you get your increment,
Right.
which is a financial thing as well.
Right.
Taxation is a financial thing, because it depends
Don't
on how
worry,
much money
I will tell you the rest.
government gets or
She's
does
going
not
into
get.
the other
Am I right?
proposals.
So I'm still yet to hear something that has to do with something other than money.
But
And let me just say this. The reason why I'm asking these questions is because I am trying to look at it from the standpoint of everyone, including the government side. And I know we have a deficit each year. So the government might be thinking,
Well,
listen, every year we have a deficit. I just don't have it to give it to you. If I had it to give it to you, I would.
So that is what I'm saying. Okay, so those might be, and like for instance, the staff rationalization, that has a financial implication, but
What does that mean?
But in fact, it is to avoid all of those politically appointees that in fact growing the government budget on a yearly basis. No, that is not for us.
They call what? Open vote?
Open vote.
Open vote
Open
and
vote
Contract.
and contract workers,
Yes.
right? So the staff rationalization policy would be put in place to avoid these, for the moment, employment, and it is not unique to one particular government. We've seen it as public officers over the years, and in some cases it has gotten really, really bad. In some cases, right? Because we've moved from contract officers of professional workers to now we have secretaries on contract, drivers on contract.
Yeah.
Why do we need to have persons of that level on contract? There is no need for that. We have clerks, some common clerks on contract.
Yeah.
Is there a salary difference somebody who's on contract as somebody who's on a
Of
salary?
course.
Yes. Packages.
It's less.
Less.
No, it's
If it
more.
was
Package is
less,
more.
it wouldn't be a problem. It's not less. It is more. We also have been talking about if it is you're going to take on persons, and this is where maybe that affects my membership, where your retirement age has come. Yes, it might be, the debate is out in terms of whether we're retiring too early or not. But the point is, you sign a contract of service that says at 55 you go home, right? And there are constant taking on of persons back on contract, which means we're paying two salaries,
Yeah.
the pension and a
the
salary. And at times, if it's the basic, it wouldn't be bad. I have no objection to those particular areas that need persons of a certain
Special skill.
special skill. But that, so the staff rationalization would have in fact looked at that. And we still have not gotten back what we need to get in relation to that particular proposal.
There was a
Right.
request made to be able to have a full list of
Contract workers.
and including the amount that they're being paid. I recall that being
We still
one
have
of the
not
clear
gotten that.
messages.
We still have not fully gotten that, because it is every year. I will tell you, we meet with the IMF. They talk about the government bill, right?
And the public wage.
The public,
yes,
right?
wage
the
bill.
wage bill every single time, and so people are going home. Other people are being taken on, so that we are asked to cut here, cut there, and yet some ministries receive new staff members that they have to find money for. We want to deal with that. We also was looking at the proposal 9, for example,
yes.
deal with the grievance handling, how we deal with the open vote workers, how we deal with, so we're looking at securing persons. So they're already there, so there is no additional financial responsibility there, right? So it's looking after workers in that, and that's still outstanding, right? There is the meritocracy system we want to put in place, award officers for the good job. No, yes, that has been dealt with. Very soon there will be awards given to outstanding public officers, giving them that public recognition for the work that they have done, and hopefully that will motivate other officers to do the right thing, to give that service to the public that they're expecting. We also looked at asking for revision of statutory boards. That, of course, we were told we can't deal with that. Why we wanted to look at that? We wanted to look at the vast majority, the subvention, the large subvention that are given to these statutory bodies. The same pressures are not put on them that are put on us in terms of cost savings, none of that. Before you know it, I remember we were there negotiating, finding our money for our raise. And government gave, I remember how much $1 million to Carl Hushna.
Yeah.
They never had to get up one day and look for the money for them to get, and they gave them bonuses. we are working hard and we are not getting bonuses, and they got bonus.
But they're taking
No.
care of sick people.
No,
what are we
HMAs.
I am not dispelling, I'm
Healthcare
not,
is one of the most important things.
Yes, but
I'm
that
not
is supposed to
disagreeing that, I am just saying. And I hope nobody take offense to the fact that I'm speaking about KHMH, but it is the example that
Example.
comes
That's
to my
right,
mind
yes.
But there are
immediately.
many other
But
statutory
But there are
bodies,
many
yeah.
other statutory bodies that
BTB,
government is
PACT.
giving subventions to, that no kind of measures are being put on them in terms of when they get increased, how they get their increase. But yet, when the time came for us to get salary adjustment, we had no problem going to look for it. And that is the point I want to make. That is the point. So the salary, looking at statutory bodies would then mean that if we look at it, we put things in place as it relates to it, it could very well save government some money. Right?
So
And cut down on the wage bill.
we've only touched the surface on some of these proposals. And I think it's important that we know what is still on the table. And I was asking about priorities earlier because what we have seen is that you're able to negotiate or come to some agreement with some issues and not all. And you're asking to come back to the table. When is the last time you had a meeting with the negotiating team from government? Let's get that.
It's so long that I can't even remember.
Has there been a
That
request?
is it.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have written to the
Twice.
lead negotiator
Who
of
is?
the official side, which is Minister Faber.
Have you gotten a
Deputy PM.
response?
No, we have not. So that one of the things we wanted to inform our membership is that it's not that we have just sat down and we have done nothing.
Nothing,
We have
exactly.
written to him asking, let us come back to the table so we can conclude this CBA. The problem is that there was one main outstanding proposal, which was proposal 22, 22 as it relates to B.N.T.U members. It had several components, one including working for the issue of proprietorship for the for grant-aided schools. Well, two things. There are some schools that are community schools and they had no proprietor. So that in relation to who pays that 70-30 in terms of pension was up in here because who is the owner? Who pays that?
It's not government, it's not church, it's not.
Right. And then another part of the proposal had to do with providing pension for the non-teaching staff. It's not a lot. In principle, I will tell you that the Deputy PM had said he doesn't see a problem with looking at it at the last meeting we had, but that is where it stopped.
And what are you talking about non-teaching staff? Tell us,
Or
Senator.
librarians, or bursars, other
Secretary.
persons who work within the school
system.
itself, right? And that would probably be about 200 or so persons that would be affected in this. So we've tried to some of the areas that came under proposal 22, we have sort of concluded, and that, for example, the hardship allowances,
Transfer grant,
transfer grant, those
tuition grant.
those were addressed, but the section that deals with these persons and the pension issue, those are still outstanding, and our teachers are saying that those are critical for them, because at the end of the day, when we look at the fact that a primary school teacher and a high school teacher, whether you're at for example, whether you're at EP York, for example, or you're at Nazarene, or you're at SJC, you perform the same duties because you have to teach and you have the same hours, that kind of thing. So you do similar duties, but at the end of your years of teaching, a set of teachers will get a full pension, while others have to either go to court to see if they can get that 30%. Some of them get none at all, so they end up going with only 70% of their pension, having worked all of these years. And so we are saying that it's unfair to have these groups of persons doing the same job and one getting 30% less than what they should be getting. And so that has to be standardized.
What you're saying is there is some kind of loophole where no one can claim responsibility, or nobody claims responsibility for the additional 30.
Because some of these, you cannot determine or it's difficult to determine who the proprietor is. So
Mhm.
who is the person who owns the school? Who should I sue? Who is responsible for paying me this 30%? And what, how do I hold them accountable for paying me that 30% of my pension? Some of them will tell you, I don't have it, and some teachers have taken them to court, and it's like the court will say, well, you must pay them, but the time that they take to pay you, it's like you might die or you won't get the 30%.
So what I'm hearing very clearly is that the teachers, once again, are coming back and saying, why haven't we settled this issue? You have reached out as the body, the negotiating team, to go back to the table and get this and other issues settled, but it's been non-responsive.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there, I mean, this is a very interesting time. I agree with what Kevin's saying. I'm sure the chamber is looking, I'm sure everybody else is looking and saying, well, Belize don't have no money. But very clearly, there are issues that don't require finances, and quite a few that I've heard are actually cost-saving measures in the
Right,
longer run.
exactly.
Yes.
But is there room for a compromise? Could you maybe whittle down the 24 to maybe 10 priority areas?
But I want to correct you in relation to that. A number of these, save one or two, like a loss increment, have been deferred.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
The only major outstanding proposal was proposal 22, and only part of it. The problem is we have agreed on most of these already, you know.
Yeah.
What is happening is that they cannot be implemented because we have not signed off on it. No, my understanding is that it, and I don't know how true it is, that the deputy PM might have said, well, I went to the table and they weren't ready and whatever, and we're concluded. But we are not concluded until
it's
we are
signed.
signed. We have signed, and we have not signed off. I have to say that, in fact, he was mindful to a number of what we proposed as it relates to proposal 22. So we tried to come to a compromise. I have to say we, even though, you know, I'm not B.N.T.U, but we had decided that we were not going to conclude until we dealt with all the proposal to its end.
So just to follow up, why can't it be separated? We've all agreed on these. So here what so here what chief negotiating DPM. I'm going to separate them to all the ones that we already agreed to. I'm going to email them to you. You print it off, you sign it, you send that back, and then we can come out and say we've agreed on this. Now, with that distraction out of the way, let's deal with this one that we haven't done.
I wish I could say that. You know why I'm saying I wish we could say that? Because the partial was signed 2012. Where are we now, Council? 2012.
6 years ago.
6 years ago, and we still have not. So if I say, okay, we push proposal 22 aside, so it's another 6 years will happen before proposal 22 can be completely addressed, because it has been partially addressed. You know, more than half of it has been dealt with, because it's in part. There were seven parts
Right.
to proposal 22. It is basically 2 or 3 that is left outstanding under that proposal. Why is it that it cannot be addressed? No, I will tell you that, because I know if today the deputy PM comes here, he will say, but it's B.N.T.U's fault that they have not done this and they have not done that. One particular aspect of this proposal was in fact placed on the responsibility of B.N.T.U, and that as it relates to the
I was going to ask. Yeah.
no, I cannot say it has not
right.
been done. No, because there is only one school that in fact did not give a response in relation to whether they want to, because government in principle had accepted that they can be the owners of these community schools. One school said, we don't want it. Right? And I'm not going to call no names because I don't want to put any schools.
Yeah.
Right? 3 said, we're okay. And only one school had remained, and it's not for want of trying on behalf of B.N.T.U. But the president is here, but I can't speak because she wasn't there at the time that in fact efforts were made to get this school to decide whether they want government to be their proprietor or not. And the simple fact is, if government is their provider, we don't have to worry about the non-teaching
Teaching
staff, you know.
yeah.
Everybody
They'll be
will
covered.
get their, they will be fully covered.
Yeah.
So that would be one aspect that would be covered.
And how long have
And
the
we've-
B.N.T.U taken not to complete that process?
We have done our best to reach out to these teachers, to share with them information, to get feedback from them. As Sister Sharon is saying, there's only one school that has not made a decision whether they want to go that route or not. Again, just recently we
What
had
was
a
your
meeting.
responsibility to seek out who wanted to be assimilated?
Right,
schools.
right. So
And
to
one
meet
chose
with them,
no.
to give them information and to get feedback from them as to what it is that they would prefer to do, so that this matter could be addressed. We had a meeting just as recently as about a month or so ago, because we are preparing to resume negotiation. And so we said, okay, before we go back into it, let us meet with our secondary school teachers again, go over this matter again, just to be sure that we are clear and we are all on the same. We did that again. That same school, we were unable to get persons from that same school to come to that meeting again. So it's not that we have not tried, but we have majority.
But the question is, how long has that ball, there are many balls being, but how long has that ball been in B.N.T.U's court? Has it been a year? Has it been 3 months, 4
But-
months?
but the thing
And
is-
what new strategies, if you see them coming to the table, and that is an important piece of the component to get this thing done, why hasn't a new strategy been engaged so that you can come back and tell the negotiating leaders, listen, we've already done it, we've come with an answer, now all the balls are in your court.
We have had a response, but as was said earlier, we have not had a meeting with the other side to present what it is that we've received.
Yeah.
So we have not been given that chance to present for them to say, listen, we agree or we don't agree. It's been over a year that we've had a meeting. And throughout that period, we have constantly done things, met with our teachers via different routes, to get feedback from them. So while we may not have had a whole school response, we have gotten feedback from several teachers at those schools. And so we have a good idea of what it is that the teachers want.
A collective bargaining agreement by its name means two people come together, two bodies come together, and you negotiate what you want to be able to agree upon to better the workers' interest, and also it will still be something suitable for the government side. I hear what Kevin is saying in terms of whether or not you've done your own due diligence. My question is, do you see any area where perhaps, because if there is a counter argument that is brought forward, in fairness from the government, they may say very well, we have been waiting for something. Is there anything outstanding that you may see as a potential, you may see it as an excuse, but it may be their point of view in terms of why there has not been a resumption of the negotiation?
I just maintain that, in fact, Proposal 22 has been our sticking point, so to speak. At the last meeting we had, we were looking at, okay, fine, if the Deputy PM was prepared to sign something as it relates to looking at the more outstanding, the three outstanding issues. Like I told you, in principle, he committed to, we can take on proprietorship. Right?
Yeah, but verbal agreements you can't enforce.
That is my point.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the point. I'm not saying he's not a man of his word. I'm not saying, and in
Yeah,
fact,
but there
he's
could
the
be a
right
change
person.
of government.
Change,
There could be
yes.
a change in the person who
And
takes up
that
the lead.
is why
Yeah.
we would have been prepared, to move forward once it is we had something that we can say, here, this is what we have.
Yeah.
And it's for that reason why, even though we have not, persons might say, and I want to go back to the issue of insurance, which was one of my pet peeves in terms of
What about insurance?
getting insurance for public officers and
Health
teachers.
insurance.
Health insurance. When it is that we approach the negotiating table with it, they said, not supportive, cannot. This was one that was referred to the Prime Minister, and I have to say in principle, he agreed that yes, public officers and teachers deserve health insurance,
So no government workers have health insurance?
except the
If
ones
you
we
have
are
your own
personally
personal one, yes.
paying. And in fact, when we spoke about insurance, we were saying we're prepared to contribute. In fact, I am paying 100% right now. So if it is, government is going to pay 50. I'm not saying that is what we wanted, you know. But say they decided that they would have paid 50. I would have no difficulty. I am paying 100. But with that, when it is the PM told us that, we were like, okay, can we have that in writing? And in fact, he reduced it to writing. The thing is, I hear him in his press conference saying that his timeline on which he's going to be here and whatever. So it is important to me that in fact, we work on, it is important to bring this CBA to an end so we can start the new one. And insurance is our priority on that list. We have others, but it's right up there. And we are now pressed for time. Time is our issue.
Well, 10-year, and well, CBAs in the unions do tend to take some time, and you
Not
feel.
10
But we've
years,
never
But
had.
I was going to say 10 years is a very long time,
We've
and
never
not
had
only
that.
that, we're going into an election cycle where priorities will change. Would you be open to saying, let's sign off on all the other proposals? Some have been implemented already, which means you've shown that you have a willingness, and we move proposal 22 as the priority agenda for our next cycle of the CBA.
The no.
Oh.
No. That is not what we're prepared to do
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
No.
Because
No.
we have
A
nothing.
compromise.
Wait, man. We've compromised a lot. You know,
Exactly.
there are lots of proposals here that was
That
not
is-
supported that we left and came off the table. A number.
Yeah.
And this is
Well, it's important that you say that, because then it gives the impression that
But
you come with
this
24
one-
and
but
demand
this is the
24.
one-
This is the only one that we're saying, let equity prevail.
Yes.
The issue, yes, it is a financial implication, but we've spent bigger money on other things that does not have direct effect on public office, in this case on teachers.
Yeah.
And if it is that we're expecting so much, then at least let them feel secure that when the time comes for them to retire, they don't have to go searching. I mean,
fighting.
or fighting for
That
the way
30%.
how they're
Work
going
for.
to live, what they've worked for.
I have a question about methodology, because I always find this very interesting. You send a letter requesting a follow-up meeting. There's no response. What
Send
happens
another one.
after that? Do you call? Do you
Send
send
another
another
one.
letter?
Send
Another one.
Is there absolutely no response? Do you get the sense of hesitation? I mean, because that shows either an unwillingness or maybe get lost in email or spam
no,
or
Those are hand delivered, Marlene. So
hard
Yes.
delivered.
I'm only kidding.
and
and-
I don't know what you're
And
saying.
the
Yeah.
situation, it's sad that in fact one has to resort to other means like coming on a talk show to maybe get response. I found that seemed to be the order of the day indeed. When in fact we've done what we're supposed to do, we've been professional about it. The letters have not been demanding, but have said, okay, let us meet, let us
Yes.
conclude. We've been doing this for too long, 1 whole year, and we have not met. And to see there are no more proposal that has been agreed upon that nothing can happen with because we have not signed
There's no
off.
formal
I am
agreement.
telling you, my membership had told me a long time ago, you need to go conclude this negotiation.
Well, I was going to say, because one of the things that, and I remember it from counter arguments from Minister Faber, was that the union's process is too long, that you agree in theory to things at the table, and then you have to go back to membership and then come back with a response.
That's not necessarily true. A lot of these things that we take is because we have already gotten membership approval on them and we go.
Exactly.
If it is that while we are negotiating there is a change from what it is that we had received from our members,
Submitted.
then of course we have to go back to them and say, listen, you know, we were requesting this, but there's a change to this. Would we be able to accept this? And there are times when as leaders we can make that decision because it won't have as big an implication.
Yeah.
But there are other times that we need to go back to our
to
membership
members,
to get that
yes.
final feedback.
So right now your members are saying we want an end to this.
Yes.
We
Right.
want to sign off on the CBA.
We've all,
Exactly.
and I believe that we've all, as joint unions, we've all agreed that this proposal 22 has been because each union has its own special proposal. So each of us has one item that
Common
is there to our members, special to your members. And
yes.
so we each want to conclude that, because then the other proposals are for everybody else.
I want to ask maybe a more direct question, not necessarily to the issues that are here, but maybe to the reasons below them. Some of the things that I've been hearing, to my mind, might be government policy decisions. For example, insurance. The government is actually in the process, as I understand it, of rolling out NHI, which is a sort of health insurance.
Only to Southside.
The government, well, yes, only to Southside, but I'm saying that there is a compete between some of the proposals that are there and the direction that maybe, I'm trying to think of it in a holistic approach. And so the government might be saying, listen, we have a policy to deal with housing, and we're developing it. We're going through it, we're rolling it out, we're balancing it off with financial constraints. We have an issue that we're dealing with in terms of government policy as it relates to NHI, and we're dealing with that. We have an issue as it relates to our education policy that we're working on in terms of the structure there. And so to give specific credence and to be driven by the unions, as opposed to the political mandate that we have, to roll out general policy. Even the policy is a simple thing of how we employ persons, open for workers. It's a government policy as to how we do that. And for the tail to wag the dog, maybe government is saying, listen, we are happy that our employers, the people, are happy with the way that we are managing certain things. And for us to take the lead from these unions, we'd be derailing what is pleasing our employers.
But
But
if
not
we were happy, we
necessarily.
would not have had these things in place. When we look at the education policy, there is no attempt right now to make any change that
The
would
issues
affect
there.
our proposal 22.
Nothing.
And so the change would be in terms of broad policy, your curriculum kind of thing, these other areas, but not anything on proposal 22. So that would not assist us in any way in resolving proposal 22.
Yeah.
As it relates to the health policy, as you've so described, NHI. Every time I hear about NHI, I have issues. You know why I have issues, Council? Because I pay Social Security whether I want to or not, but me and my child cannot benefit from NHI because I live on the wrong side of the bridge. So
It's a social contract. We are there to look out
so
for
poor
both.
people.
No, it's
so
supposed
poor
to be
people-
rolled out
No,
countrywide.
No,
Exactly.
so poor people
It
don't
has to
live
be
on the
started
north
somewhere.
side of the bridge.
Yeah, it's been
so,
a
so,
long time.
So poor people don't live in your, that deserve this social benefit, don't live on the north side of the bridge. No, it was a pilot. They decided that they were going to roll it out on the south side of the bridge.
Start it there. The least.
But man, how long ago was that?
Exactly.
And still, but I want to say though, that in fact, while it is that you might say, okay, there are policies, we did our research as it relates to the health insurance and looking at that. While it is, they will say, well, you can go to the hospital and get free care, health care. That is not true.
That is
No.
Because every time it might not be a huge fee, but every time you go to Carl Hushner, you have to pay. Except, I must say that there are some public officers, because I've gone to I've gone to Carl Hushner, I've gotten service and have not paid. Because I'm in the system when it was such that public officers could get primary
Care.
service, health care, and did not have to pay.
Was there
I can't, I don't want to say free,
Yeah.
but did not have to come out pocket
Okay.
to pay. No, once you jump primary, that's
have to
it.
pay.
Not just that, you go to the hospital, you're diagnosed, whatever it is, you're given a prescription, and then there is no medication at the pharmacy. So what happens? You have to go to the private pharmacy.
There are-
But let me ask a question though, because I think NHI, and we've been joined by different health officials who've all advocated for the full rollout. Northside would still only cover the Belize district, which is not sufficient. But you say that you've done your due diligence. What would be, is it cheaper to invest in a co-payment with the workers for insurance versus the full rollout of NHI?
I believe that for the purposes, investing in a co-payment would work. Why I'm saying that? If you look at the statistics and you look at what have come out of Ministry of Health and the amount of public officers who are on sick leave, who have gone before the medical board, it has been costing government an arm and a leg. And I don't think people realize that. You might say, okay, a public officer calling sick, but government is paying for that, you know.
Yes.
You're getting your full salary, so government is paying for that. I'm saying you have insurance, you go, so some of the costing that is costing the government will be taken away, so it will be less on the wage bill in the longer run if it is that it will cost government less in terms of productivity in a lot of areas, right? And the stress that comes with means that there are lots of diabetics, lots of hypertensive, lots of public officers with high cholesterol, lots of, it's costing the government.
So we've heard those points, and it is, we're running out of time so quickly. What is your call at this point? Is it simply letting it known to your membership that you've been attempting to meet, not been able to meet, but then what?
Well, hopefully the deputy PM is listening, or somebody is listening for him. Again, we are calling out, we're making a public call. It is, our primary purpose was to inform our members, but at the same time, we need to conclude this present
CBA.
collective bargaining.
Do you have an action plan as to a timeline that you want to be able to address this? I know sometimes you all
ready
send
tomorrow.
some demand letters.
We're ready tomorrow.
I wanted to ask this though, which is something nagging on me. It has taken a very long time, but there must be a reason for that. What about the possible point that from either side there have been successive elections and you can't speak during an election? You can't. It doesn't make sense. You're going to be distracted. The leader, the politician, the political directorate is looking to win elections. There's political mischief around that time. But also the unions, the relationship between the unions and the government has been back and forth. We had a strike with the teachers for some days back last year. The unions themselves are having trouble with leadership.
Because of the same issue, because of this negotiations?
They've had trouble with leadership in terms of their internal issues with each union. And so could it be that it's just timing? It's like the Guatemala-Belize issue. Every time one side is ready, or could be ready, the other side is having an issue. So could it be independent? I don't want to say, I'm not trying to say that it's completely naive, that it's innocent. But could there be things that are dragging it out? So it can't just meet tomorrow to get it done. Because we're actually at the beginning, if we're watching the news, we're at the beginning of silly season 2. The political parties are already started to churn up.
And that's why tomorrow is appropriate.
Exactly.
Okay. We got to wrap it up though, so very quickly.
Just to respond, because despite the fact that we may have had elections within our unions, we have persons who are constant on our negotiating team.
Yes.
So even though we might be new to the process, we have persons who are there from the inception, and so there's not that gap.
Continuity.
All right. So hopefully they've heard your call, and tomorrow you get a schedule for a meeting. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the Ministry of Health to talk about World No Tobacco Day.